There is a pattern in the human record that I find more difficult to explain than almost anything else I've encountered. The people who cause the most damage to a person are almost never strangers. They are the parents, the partners, the closest friends, the ones who are supposed to be the safest. And in the other direction, the people who receive the worst version of a person. The impatience, the irritability, the cruelty that never appears at work or with acquaintances are almost always the ones closest to them. We protect strangers with a politeness we never extend to the people we love most. I want to follow that because the explanation matters, and the conventional explanations, we take people for granted. We feel safe enough to be ourselves, don't go deep enough. The psychologist John Bowlby spent his career studying what he called attachment, the deep bond that forms between a child and their primary caregiver, and the way that bond shapes every subsequent relationship. What he found was both elegant and unsettling. The patterns of closeness and distance, of trust and withdrawal, of how we handle conflict and separation, these are not chosen in adulthood. They are formed in the first years of life, before language, before conscious memory, in the body's response to whether the person who was supposed to be there was there. And then those patterns, invisible, automatic, running below the surface, activate most powerfully in intimate relationships, because intimate relationships are the ones that most closely resemble the original attachment, the ones that reach back and pull those ancient patterns into the present. The fight you're having with your partner may not be about what it appears to be about. It may be an echo of something much older, playing out with someone who had nothing to do with the original. That is not an excuse, but it is an explanation. And explanations, when precise enough, create the small gap between stimulus and response where change becomes possible. The Stoics had a practice they called negative visualization, the deliberate imagining of loss, not as pessimism, as a method for appreciating what is present before it is gone. Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, all of them wrote about the danger of what we might now call taking for granted, the way familiarity erodes the perception of value, how the person who once seemed extraordinary becomes, through proximity and repetition, ordinary, expected, and therefore invisible. The Stoic remedy was to remember, this person could be gone. This moment will not recur. What would you do differently if you knew that? It is a practice, not a feeling. And like all Stoic practices, it requires deliberate effort, because the default is always the familiarity that blinds. There is something else the trail shows that is harder to name. Intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability, genuine vulnerability, not the performed kind, activates the nervous system's threat response. To be truly close to someone is to give them the precise information they would need to hurt you most effectively. Your fears, your wounds, the exact words that land, the history that still aches. Most people don't fully consciously register this, but the body does. And one of the ways the body manages that threat, without permission, without announcement, is to strike first, or to withdraw, or to create conflict that justifies the distance that feels safer. We hurt the people closest to us, in part, because they are the ones we have let close enough to be dangerous. The wound and the closeness are not separate. They are the same thing, seen from different angles. The Buddhist tradition has a practice, metta, loving kindness, that works outward in rings. You begin with yourself, then a loved one, then a neutral person, then, and this is where it becomes genuinely difficult, someone you find challenging, someone who has hurt you. Not to pretend the harm wasn't real, not to abandon discernment about who to trust, but to notice what happens in you when you hold, even briefly, the wish that this person, the difficult one, the one who hurt you, might also be free from suffering, because the anger you carry toward them is weight you carry, not them. That is not a comfortable observation, and it is not an instruction to forgive on command. It is an observation about where the damage actually lives and who pays the ongoing cost of it. Why do we hurt the people closest to us? Because proximity activates ancient patterns that have nothing to do with the person in front of us. Because familiarity erodes the perception of value. Because vulnerability and threat are two sides of the same experience. Because we give the people we love the access they need to hurt us, and sometimes fear that access before they've done anything with it. None of that makes the hurt less real. None of it is an excuse, but understanding the mechanism precisely enough to see it in yourself before it runs is the beginning of something different, not perfect closeness, something more honest than that. Closeness with eyes open, knowing the cost, choosing it anyway. The question to sit with: is there someone close to you who receives a version of you that you would be uncomfortable with if you saw it clearly? Not to judge yourself, just to see it. What would be different if you brought to them the same care you bring to people you're trying to impress?